Hey Rush Nation, Murf here. Time to go through a little bit of the waiver wires of week 15. Hope week 14 was kind. It was kind to me for the most part. Picked up a fair amount of victories. Should have a lot of horses in the race going into semi-final week, especially in the listener leagues. We've done particularly well this year in there. We have at least 12 out of 18 semi-final places, which is pretty good going. Still a couple to result, so we'll see what the sort of final tallies are, but it'll be at least 12, which is good for us. So we're very happy with the performance so far, and very happy in a lot of other leagues. I did get Derek Henry, I think, in a league or two, and I think there's still some things I've still got to work out, or games still in play. But ultimately, I think it's been about as kind as I could hope for week 14, and hope it was just as profitable for all of you. So now we move on to week 15, semi-final week. Yes, okay, there's still a game tonight. I know a lot of you are still going to have a lot of skin in the game with your Nick Chubbs and Lamar Jacksons, etc. So, but I just want to make sure that you guys are staying on the ball, and if you've got an opportunity to progress, to make sure you get your waiver claims in nice and early. So let's go through the week 15 waiver wire options. We've got two Tagovailoa at quarterback this week, 24.9% owned, a 300-yard game, 3 touchdowns, very good against the Chiefs. I know it wasn't in the winning effort, but he started to finally look like a fantasy quarterback that a lot of people invested in very high rookie draft picks in Superflex, or still relatively good capital in rookie drafts. So very happy to see him progress and start to look like the quarterback that we kind of knew that he was. Injuries is always going to be something to keep an eye on, but for week 15, the schedule should open up for him, and I think he's going to be a top 15 quarterback going forward for the rest of the season. Next up at quarterback is Teddy Bridgewater, 23.5% owned. He is Green Bay this week. Now, if you look at the stat lines for Teddy Bridgewater, he didn't look amazing. All right, 75% completion, which is really good, but no passing touchdowns. He did get in with a rushing score, but the completion rate, the yardage, almost 300 yards against the Broncos is pretty good. And they scored a lot of points because Mike Davis was allowing them to control the game, and he was getting in the end zone. So it's not going to happen in week 15. Although I think Mike Davis or Christian McCaffrey, whoever it is, will be prevalent. I do think they'll have to throw the ball because it will be a shootout, and they'll need to make those big plays. And hopefully with DJ Moore, hopefully coming back off the COVID list, and then maybe that might make a bit of difference as well. So I think there's a few things to consider there. Running back, this is getting really, really desperate now in terms of what's on the running back option for this list. In terms of under 30% owned, I've got DeAndre Washington, 13.2% owned, 15 touches. Okay, he didn't quite get the kind of yardage that you would have expected off 15 touches. However, having said that, it's still the volume. Obviously this changes if Myles Gaskin plays, and he'd see a significant drop. But if he doesn't, DeAndre Washington is probably the one running back left on the waiver wire who's got a volume that can propel him into an RB2, RB1 situation. So you definitely need to pick him up, even if he isn't going to produce, and he might not even be much. I think you've got to spend the fab on him because he could be someone that gets you a W in a close semi-final. And if he's not, you haven't lost much. It's only one more week to go. So get your fab on him and get him in. You need to establish the run to beat the Patriots. That's our Sean McVay and Cam Akers. They've had to do this and did very well last week. So I can't see a similar sort of thing for DeAndre Washington, but he did look handy out there. He definitely broke some tackles. They will just need to establish the run a bit more, I think, against New England. And I think the game script will go in their way as well. The other one is Jeff Wilson, 7.9% owned. He has Dallas in week 15. He did score 11 touches, but I'd rather have half a Kyle Shanahan back than perhaps everybody else who's under 30% owned. In terms of players that are over 30% owned to target, I'll start with quarterbacks because I missed them out. I'm looking at Derek Carr. I thought this would be a tough matchup, and he did very, very well in that. Jared Goff, his schedule becomes significantly easier now. because he has the Jets, then Seattle, then Arizona. So Jared Goff is 48.3% owned. He's one I'd be picking up for the remaining weeks. Derek Carr also potentially, and Drew Brees is available in half of leagues. He should be coming off IR shortly, especially after that loss yesterday. So they're players I'd be looking at. In terms of running backs, Jamal Williams is still available in over half of leagues. He's someone I'd be definitely keeping an eye on. Benny Snell too, especially considering how poor James Conner was yesterday. Maybe there's something there. So Benny Snell might be a player I'd be looking at and being interested in here as well. I think they're kind of the big two that are under 50% owned. I'm just having a look. Yeah, I definitely say they were the two that I would be targeting if I was picking up waivers this week, because I think they've got the best opportunity to really impress. Going on to wide receivers, the wide receiver pick this week, Kiki QT, same again as last week, 29.9% owned. Massive opportunity on Sunday. Okay, didn't produce. He did score a touchdown, but he's also not a number one wide receiver, and I think that's really important to understand. So we should expect Brandon Cooks to play next week, and so as a result, Kiki Kuti will be that field stretcher, and he will get less coverage on him than he did this week just gone. So I think Kiki Kuti is someone that I can rely on in week 15. And the other is Nelson Aguilar, and I know that he has absolutely burned people in the past, and he's burned me, and I get it, but he's getting targets at the moment. He went for 101 on Sunday, 20 catches in his last 4 games. He really has that opportunity, and I do believe he will be a wide receiver 3 for the rest of the season. Other potential candidates off the waiver wire that you could be targeting is Michael Pittman, 38% owned. I think he's probably it. There's a lot of sort of lower owned. So Tim Patrick, I really like. He's 20.3% owned. I still believe in Brashard Perriman, 16.6% owned. Keelan Cole had a day yesterday, and maybe with Minshew back, he gets a bit more love. He's 14% owned. Russell Gage, good day yesterday, 11.8% owned. Laviska Shenault, 11.5% owned. There's a lot of guys on waivers at the moment who I really, really like, and there's players that you can really start to pick up and use. So you should have plenty of options on your waiver wire for wide receiver if you've suffered injuries at that position. One position you won't get a lot of love in is tight ends. So to make this easy, I've come up with 2 for you. The first is Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet is 3.7% owned. He's getting the targets now, not Jimmy Graham in Chicago. Mitch Trubisky is using him. He's 7 targets in the last 2 games. Okay, Graham got the touchdown, but it's all coming Kmet's way, and I see him getting into the end zone, especially as he's got Minnesota in week 15. And Jordan Reid, he's still averaging over 5 targets a game in his last 4 games. It's been a tough run, but starting with Dallas next week, I think he gets involved a bit more. So I really believe a Jordan Reid day is just around the corner, but tight ends have been a really tricky position to get any production out of consistently over the season. I think you've just basically got to pick your poison. I don't really like the guys who are owned more than them. Maybe Logan Thomas, he's now up to 42.4% owned, but he's probably the only other guy I'd consider. Kicker, I've gone for Joey Sly. He's accurate. He does pretty well away from home. He's got Green Bay in week 15. So I like Joey Sly. I think he's one of the best kickers in the league, and he's been consistent over the last 2 years. So you could put Joey Sly in. He'll put in a top 12 performance. He's a fairly consistent kicker. And then DST, I've gone with the Titans again. Lined them up last week. They got 6 fantasy points, and appreciate that that's not a huge amount, but at the same point, it's not pitiful either. It's just really thin, under 30% owned at DST. He's easily the best of a bad bunch as a result of that. If you're looking at other potential DSTs out there that are owned that might have better matchups, I would definitely say that the Browns, if they're out there, they're available in about just over half of leagues. They've got the Giants, and they're struggling at the moment, so they're a team I would potentially look at. Maybe the Patriots. They got Miami next. They could cause some pressure. A divisional game. Bill Belichick would like to spoil the party, that's for sure. And the Bills, they're available in half the leagues. and they've got Denver next. So there's a couple of teams right there that you could look at if they're available that perhaps you like more than the Titans, and I wouldn't blame you for that in a lot of cases. But that should do it for this week. Thanks very much for sticking with us through the season. Let's hope this Waiver Wire podcast continues to be as fruitful as it has been all season. Don't forget to check out the article online for more in-depth analysis. Don't forget to follow all the other things that we do. Stocks is on holiday this week, so I'm bringing you a very special guest tomorrow. And he's one of my favorite people in the industry. He's been on before. If you're a regular listener, you called for him, you've asked for him, he's coming back. So be excited for that. But until later, Rush Nation, don't forget, keep rushing.